Wine, a beverage that has been poured for ages, toasted in ceremonies, distributed around tables, and spoken about in poetry. It is both straightforward and timeless in nature. Grapes transformed into liquid, which, through the process of fermentation, became something that surpassed their original form. A bottle is opened, a glass is raised, and a drink is consumed. However, much like salt, what appears to be simple is anything but. Wine is no longer simply wine in today's world. It can be organic, biodynamic, or conventional, but it can also be dressed with the most tempting word of all, natural. All of a sudden, your involvement in drinking alcohol has become something more than that. You are engaging in a philosophy, a movement, and possibly even a rebellion. The word is responsible for the majority of the work. Organic, unadulterated, authentic. It gives the impression that everything else is artificial, processed, and compromised. Compared to the polished Chardonnay bottles that are lined up on the shelves of grocery stores, a cloudy bottle with a label that has been drawn by hand gives the impression that it is more authentic. A single sip becomes a statement, declaring that this is the real deal, that this is wine in its purest form, and that this is wine as it was intended to be. That is what the story holds out for us, at least. However, what does it really signify in practice? The return to traditional practices is a common way to describe natural wine. Grapes are picked, most often by hand, and then they are left to ferment in the sun with the wild yeasts that reside on their skins and float in the air. Nothing is added to either direct or control the process. No cultured yeast, no fining agents, no stabilizers, little to no sulfites. The beverage is bottled with minimal intervention, often still fermenting, often unfined and unfiltered. The result is wine in its rawest form. In the glass, it may appear hazy, murky, even orange or amber instead of pale and clear. It can fizz lightly, crackle with energy, or shift in flavour from one sip to the next. A white might taste more like cider. An orange wine might contain tea-like tannins. A red might be smoky, earthy, even feral. For some, this unpredictability is the thrill. The sense that you're drinking something living, raw, and full of character. But with that thrill comes risk. Not every surprise is nice. What one sommelier describes as funky or farmhouse may strike another drinker as sour or spoiled. A bottle vibrant one week may taste flat the next. Without preservatives, without sulfites to keep oxygen and bacteria at bay, natural wine is unstable. It can transform in ways that delight or in ways that disappoint. For enthusiasts, this volatility is part of the charm. For skeptics, it is proof that natural wine is less consistent, less reliable, and sometimes less drinkable. And then there is health, the most deceiving component of the story. Many say natural wine is cleaner, better for the body, safer for the head. There are no sulfites, no chemicals, and no additions in this product. However, this is where the irony lies. Wine is wine. It is alcohol, so be careful when handling it. Just because something is labelled as natural does not automatically make it good for one's health. Sulfites, the antagonists in the story, are not as hazardous of a chemical as they are portrayed to be. They prevent wine from going bad when they are added in tiny quantities because they function as preservatives. Individuals who consume standard wine do not typically experience any adverse effects, despite the fact that a single glass of wine contains significantly fewer sulfites than a small portion of dried apricots. Sulfites are not to blame for headaches, hangovers, or lethargy. Alcohol is the culprit behind these symptoms, so the purity stated on the bottle is not a promise of health. The true meaning of this is that anything is fragile, unstable, and unpredictable. Why then do individuals pay more? Why does a hazy bottle with a handmade label fly off the shelf, while a polished retail Merlot gathers dust? The solution to the problem marketed for other reasons. It markets the ideals that it holds dear. It is a way of telling you that you are drinking with the soil, with tradition, and with authenticity. It gives you the feeling that you are a participant in something that is uncommon, a movement that stands in opposition to the uniformity of industrialization, a rebellion that is directed against sameness. The flavor is simply one part of the equation. The remainder is considered to be identity. However, wine is not the only beverage that may be consumed using this technique. This is not the first time we have witnessed this. The pink, grey, volcanic, and Celtic forms of salt that are currently available for purchase are all marketed as being both historical artifacts and health-promoting treasures. Salt, which was originally considered to be an ordinary crystal, is now sold in a variety of shapes. Sugar, which was previously only a white crystalline substance, has been repackaged in a variety of forms, including brown sugar, raw sugar, coconut sugar, and agave sugar, each of which claims to be more nutritious than the others. Even water, which used to be taken for granted from the tap, is now marketed in glass bottles as spring, glacier, or rainwater for a price that is many times higher than the original. The story is always the same, a minor variation that is concealed within a larger storyline. That same theatre is the perfect place for natural wine, where a glass full of hazy liquid turns into a symbol and a bottle turns into a belief. Does that cause it to become devoid of any significance? Not in any way, shape, or form. On account of the fact that natural wine has the potential to be exceptional, a sip of pet nat that is effervescent and full of wild freshness. A wine with the colour of orange that shines like amber and has a flavour that is reminiscent of dried fruit and tea leaves. A red wine that seems to be living in a way that none of the traditional wines have ever been able to achieve. Although these bottles won't improve your health, they can provide you with a variety of sensations. They have the ability to enhance meals, pique people's attention, and provide a reminder that wine is not merely a product, it is also transformation, opportunity, and a narrative. Additionally, you should remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell if you find pleasure in discovering the hidden stories that are behind the objects we encounter on a daily basis, the illusions and truths that are woven into the items that we take for granted, because there are countless mysteries that are waiting to be found in your glass, your pantry, and elsewhere. And that may be the honest-to-goodness truth of the matter. Natural wine is neither superior nor inferior to other kinds of wine. It is a risky endeavour. There are instances when the risk is worth it, and the result is brilliance. On occasion, you are left with nothing more than a glass of vinegar. In addition to the grapes and the fermenting process, what you are actually purchasing is a narrative, a tale of revolt, authenticity and purity. A story that is so compelling that, even if the flavour is not what you had hoped for, the label is still able to convince you that it was important. Therefore, the next time you raise a hazy glass of wine, and someone tells you that it is the most authentic wine you will ever drink, you should ask yourself whether you are tasting the vineyard, the philosophy, or simply the marketing campaign. This is due to the fact that what is in your glass could simply be nothing more than grapes that have been fermented. That being said, the story is what occupies your thoughts. Sometimes, the narrative is more compelling than the wine on its own.